Look outside, it is night, the stars are scattered, and everything is silent. Yet inside your heart is noisy, restless, whispering that all your efforts are nothing more than castles made of sand, beautiful for a moment but collapsing as soon as you try to hold them. Sometimes the very thought of carrying on feels heavier than the burden itself, but pause, listen, even stopping to breathe, even daring to think again, is itself an act of courage. The first question that often weighs on us is, do my struggles mean anything? The answer is not always easy. Not every pain needs an explanation, but every pain ignored becomes a mistake. Pain, in a way, is like a lantern. It is not the light itself, but it tells you the light is needed. The darker the night, the greater the need for the one who lights the flame. And sometimes you are the one who must strike the match, even if it is just a flicker. Second, courage is not one giant leap. It is the collection of small, ordinary steps taken daily. A man standing at the foot of a mountain cannot conquer it in a single stride. But he can lift one stone, then another, then take one step, then another, and in time the path opens. Each small act opening your window to the morning, offering a smile, completing a simple task, these are the bricks of endurance. Third, loneliness often feels sharpest when we believe we are utterly alone. But think the moon and stars each follow their separate courses across the sky, and yet none are truly alone. Your story is tied into other stories, in a friend's quiet prayer, in the kindness of a stranger, in the laughter of a child. Even when you feel disconnected, remember, invisible threads tie souls together. Sometimes all it takes is tugging at one thread to find your way back. Fourth, weakness is not something to hide. To confess weakness is to unlock a strange strength. A tree gives shade not because it resists the winds, but because its roots sink deep into the earth. In the same way, facing your own truth is what anchors you. Shame loses its grip the moment you name it. Honesty allows you to step forward. And finally, hope is not just a thought, it is a practice. Hope is born in the smallest acknowledgments, the breath you still carry, the one good deed you can do today, the single moment of calm you can claim. Gather these little truths, and they form a chain. That chain becomes a rope, and sometimes all you need is one rope, one thread, one day, one step, then another, until one day you look back and realize, I thought I had given up, but I have endured. If you are still troubled, try this. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and name one thing for which you are thankful. Just one. Gratitude is a spark. It lights a small flame in the soul. And when that flame grows, the silence of the night will no longer feel like emptiness, but background. My words can only reach so far. The true strength will come from the steps you take. And if today you take even the smallest step, it is not just a step, it is the quiet announcement of your new beginning. Weariness is natural, surrender is optional, choose wisely, rise again, walk forward, one step is enough. This is for you a gentle hand when you are tired. Stand, move, breathe, the path will meet your feet as you go. Pain is a lantern, it points to the need for light. Think of how a lantern is never the source of the sun, never the dazzling brilliance that makes the whole sky alive, and yet it carries enough glow to remind you that there is something beyond the darkness. Pain works in the same way. It is not the destination, it is not the meaning, it is not the ultimate explanation for your life, but it reveals the places where light is needed. When you feel that sharp ache inside your heart, it is as though your soul is whispering that something important is missing, that a corner of your being has gone dim and waits to be lit. You can ignore it, cover it, and pretend it is not there, but darkness ignored does not vanish, it only grows heavier. Pain draws attention, and though it is uncomfortable, that attention is often what saves us from losing our way entirely. Without pain, we would drift in numbness, never knowing where the gaps are that cry out for healing. If you watch a traveler walking through the night with a lantern, the path itself has not changed. The rocks and turns and steep climbs remain what they are, yet the lantern changes how he meets them. Pain in your life may not remove the challenges or undo the wounds you have already faced, but it illuminates the very places that require strength, compassion, and growth. Pain can show you where forgiveness is needed, whether for others or for yourself. It can expose the false hopes you leaned on, reminding you they could never bear your full weight. It can highlight your hunger for meaning, the longing for love, the ache for belonging. Like a lantern, it does not fix the road, but it allows you to see where you are stepping, and where you might fall if you remain blind. The strange gift of pain is that it refuses to let you settle in darkness, as if it were normal. It unsettles you, it irritates you, it wakes you up in the night. That unrest itself is proof that you were not designed for despair. You were not meant to remain in emptiness without yearning for more. When pain presses you, it is not always your enemy. It can be a messenger that whispers, "There must be light." To recognize pain as a lantern is not to glorify suffering, but to acknowledge its signal. The lantern is fragile, its flame flickers, but even that small flicker is enough to tell you that night will not last forever. There is also a humility in carrying a lantern. You cannot see miles ahead, you cannot predict the entire road, you are given just enough light for the next step. Pain teaches the same humility. It brings you to moments where you cannot control everything, cannot solve everything in one instant, cannot demand answers for every question. Instead, you are offered just enough clarity to take one step at a time. And in learning to take those steps, you find yourself moving forward, however slowly, into places you once thought you could never reach. Pain, then, is not just a burden to endure, but a guide that insists there is something more than the shadows pressing around you. It refuses to let you believe that the dark is final, and even in its sharpness, it calls you toward the light you were meant to find. Courage is built on small, daily steps. Many imagine courage as a grand and dramatic act, the kind of moment where someone stands on a stage, faces a great enemy, or declares a mighty truth. But real courage rarely appears that way in everyday life. More often, it is hidden in the quiet choices no one notices, the little decisions that seem ordinary but slowly form the foundation of a strong soul. When you rise in the morning, even when you feel exhausted, that is courage. When you choose to speak with kindness though bitterness tempts you, that is courage. When you take responsibility for one task, however small, in the middle of confusion, that too is courage. It is not the size of the act that matters, but the persistence of it, the rhythm of continuing when it would be easier to stop. Think of how a mountain is climbed. No one conquers its height in one single stride. Instead, a climber places one foot after the other, sometimes stumbling, sometimes gasping for breath, yet always returning to the next step. Over time, those steps lead to the peak, though each one in itself seemed insignificant. Courage functions in exactly this way. Each small act by itself might look too small to matter, but taken together they create a path of endurance. The person who chooses patience again and again grows stronger than the one who waits for a single moment of greatness. The one who practices faithfulness in small duties will have the strength to face larger trials when they come. There is something deceptive about waiting for courage to arrive all at once. You will wait forever because courage is not a sudden visitor, it is a companion built by habit. It grows like a muscle, strengthened by repetition. Every time you take a small step forward, you reinforce the truth that fear does not rule you completely. Each decision to try again, each refusal to surrender, lays another brick in the structure of resilience. By the time a great storm comes, you may not even realize how much strength you already carry until you are standing firm without collapsing. Courage is also a daily choice because fear itself renews daily. It greets you in the morning and often lingers at night. If fear is persistent, then courage must be more persistent. The way to answer fear is not with a sudden shout, but with steady resistance. You may not silence it forever, but you can refuse to obey it today. And then tomorrow you do the same again. Slowly, fear loses its authority over you, not because it disappears, but because you no longer let it decide your path. In the small steps of courage, humility is present too. You do not need to be heroic in the eyes of others. You need only to be faithful in what is before you. Washing dishes when your body is tired, showing up to work when your spirit is low, offering help when no one applauds you. These are not acts the world praises, yet they are the soil where courage grows. They teach you that greatness is not built in a single day, but in thousands of small choices. Over time, those choices weave together into a strength that even you did not know you carried. And when you look back, you realize that what felt like mere survival in the moment was in fact the steady construction of courage that could endure. You are never truly alone. Invisible threads connect souls. Loneliness has a way of whispering lies into the heart, convincing you that your struggle is yours alone, and that no one could ever understand what you carry. Yet if you look closer at life, you begin to see that your story is not as isolated as you once believed. Every life touches another, sometimes in ways too subtle to notice at first. The kindness of a stranger holding the door, the memory of a friend's laughter that returns to you on a quiet evening, the silent prayer of someone who still remembers your name, all of these are threads woven into your existence. You may not see them with your eyes, but they are there, binding you to a larger story that stretches far beyond yourself. Even nature itself teaches this truth. Stars are scattered across the vast sky, each burning in its own place, yet together they form constellations that guide sailors and inspire poets. A single star is beautiful, but when seen in relation to others, it creates meaning and direction. So it is with people. You may feel like a solitary point of light, but your presence joins with countless others to shape patterns unseen. What feels like isolation may in fact be part of a design so much greater than you realize. The invisible threads are what make the whole picture possible. Consider how even the smallest acts of connection ripple outward. A word of encouragement you once gave may still echo in the heart of someone you have long forgotten. A smile you offered to a weary passerby may have been the very thing that gave them strength to continue. You may never know the outcome, yet those invisible threads extend from you into the lives of others, tying you to moments of hope you cannot see. Likewise, others have done the same for you. Someone's generosity, someone's patience, someone's willingness to listen, these threads are quietly holding you when you feel like falling apart. The illusion of loneliness comes from focusing only on the silence around you rather than on the unseen ties beneath. Just as roots of trees intertwine underground though the trunks stand apart, so too do human souls connect beneath the surface of appearances. Two trees may look alone in a field, yet beneath the soil their roots share strength and nourishment. You are like that tree, outwardly separate but inwardly connected to a web that sustains you. These threads are not always loud or obvious, but they are steady and they are real. To know you are connected is to realize that your pain is not wasted. Others have walked paths like yours, and though their footsteps are invisible, their presence is near. The songs of those who suffered and survived still linger in the air, encouraging you without words. The prayers of those who care travel farther than you imagine. Even when people fail you, the memory of love given once is a thread that still ties you to something larger. When you begin to notice these threads, loneliness no longer feels like an endless void, but like a temporary blindness that slowly clears. You understand that your life is part of a tapestry woven with countless strands, some visible, many hidden, but all essential to the design. The threads remind you that you belong, that you matter, and that your story is intertwined with many others who walk beside you in ways unseen. Admitting weakness opens the door to real strength. There is something in human nature that resists confession, that fights against showing any cracks in the armor. We are taught to present ourselves as capable, as put together, as if we are never shaken or afraid. Yet all the while, inside, we tremble. We carry doubts we dare not name, fears we cannot admit, and failures we desperately try to bury. The effort of hiding them often exhausts us more than the weakness itself. In truth, it is not the weakness that destroys, but the pride that insists on hiding it. The moment we name it, the weight begins to shift. Admitting weakness is not an act of defeat, but the first spark of honesty that makes room for genuine strength. Think of a tree that grows tall in the wind. Its strength does not come from pretending the storm does not exist, but from letting its roots dig deeper in response. In the same way, when we admit our frailty, we allow our roots to seek what is real and solid. Denial keeps us shallow, surface level, fragile. Honesty drives us downward into deeper ground where true resilience is formed. The act of admitting weakness does not make us collapse, it anchors us in reality. In reality, though painful, is far safer to stand upon than illusion. There is also a strange freedom in admitting what we cannot do. It relieves us of the exhausting task of pretending. Masks are heavy things, and they slip when the storms of life grow strong. To remove them willingly is to choose lightness, even if it comes with vulnerability. People often imagine vulnerability as exposure, but in many ways it is a shield. It tells the world you have nothing left to hide, and in that place of openness, shame loses its grip. What can shame accuse you of when you have already spoken the truth aloud? The darkness of secrecy loses its power the moment it is brought into light. Weakness, when confessed, becomes the soil for connection. Others recognize themselves in your honesty and feel permission to lay down their own disguises. A bond forms not through the illusion of perfection, but through the admission of imperfection. In those shared confessions, community grows, and community itself becomes a source of strength. The walls we build to protect ourselves from being seen are often the very walls that keep out the comfort and support we most desperately need. To lower them is frightening, but it is also the only way to let others in. Admitting weakness also reshapes how we see strength. Strength is not the absence of struggle, it is the courage to continue despite it. The strongest people are not those who never fell, but those who face their brokenness and learn to rise again. When you admit your weakness, you begin the process of rising. You are no longer trapped in denial, no longer wasting energy on false appearances. That freed energy can now be used to build, to heal, to grow. True strength is born not in the moment of pretending to be invincible, but in the moment of admitting you are not. There is a paradox hidden here, one that only experience reveals. The very moment you dare to speak your weakness aloud, you discover a resilience you did not know existed. By letting go of the illusion of control, you step into a deeper kind of control, the choice to face reality honestly. That choice is where courage takes root and where endurance finds its voice. Weakness does not vanish when admitted, but it changes shape, becoming a doorway instead of a prison, a teacher instead of a tormentor, a beginning rather than an end. Hope is not a feeling but a daily practice. Feelings rise and fall like waves on the shore, sometimes carrying us high with joy and sometimes pulling us down into despair. If hope were only a feeling, it would be too fragile to rely on, but hope is something different, something steadier. It is the act of choosing to look for light even when the sky is gray. It is the decision to place one foot in front of the other even when you cannot see far ahead. Hope is not simply waiting for better days. It is building small pieces of goodness in the day you already have. Every act of hope begins with something small. It may be the choice to breathe deeply when panic tightens your chest. It may be writing down one thing you are thankful for when everything seems heavy. It may be offering a kind word when your own heart feels tired. These actions do not erase hardship, but they change the way hardship meets you. They remind you that darkness does not have the final word. Hope becomes real not in the grand gestures, but in the repeated small ones that slowly reshape the atmosphere of your life. Think of a gardener tending soil through a long winter. The ground looks barren, the air is cold, yet the gardener continues to prepare, to plant, to water. He does not see fruit immediately, but his steady actions are acts of hope. Each seed buried is a declaration that spring will come, even if the signs are hidden. So it is with the human spirit. Every small choice to believe, to persist, to act with love, is a seed planted in faith that tomorrow can hold something new. Hope grows not because the environment is easy, but because the heart refuses to give up tending the soil. Hope as a practice also protects against despair by shifting focus from what is impossible to what is possible today. You may not be able to change the entire weight of your circumstances, but you can choose how to respond in this moment. You can speak truth instead of silence, you can forgive instead of hardening your heart, you can rest instead of drowning in exhaustion. Each choice is a thread in a larger fabric, and as you weave them day by day, you find that a pattern of endurance has been created. The practice of hope builds strength long before you notice its results. There is humility in practicing hope because it admits that you do not control everything. You cannot guarantee outcomes, you cannot force the future, yet you can choose to show up in the present with faithfulness. That choice is the essence of hope. It is not passive waiting but active living. It is found in the hand that reaches out even after rejection, in the prayer whispered when answers are slow, in the determination to rise again after falling. Hope is a discipline, and like all disciplines, it is shaped over time, strengthened by repetition, refined in difficulty. When hope is practiced this way, it becomes something deeper than optimism. Optimism depends on circumstances, but hope depends on decision. It does not deny sorrow or overlook pain. It faces them honestly and still dares to act as if renewal is possible. With each day that you choose to practice hope, you build a foundation stronger than feelings, one that carries you through both joy and sorrow. And in that practice, you discover that hope is not a distant dream, but a way of living one moment at a time.